Good afternoon. Thank you for joining today. As the title of the slide states, we're going to spend the next half an hour or so talking about an overview of the state of in-flight Wi-Fi. So just to be clear, as we often hear, we're in the boarding process on an airplane. The flight attendants give you an opportunity to make sure that you're on the right aircraft. So I'll give everybody a chance to settle in and make sure that they're on the right webinar. But this is the state of in-flight Wi-Fi. So if you're not wanting to hear, this is your last chance to exit the aircraft, if you will. So I hope everybody's ready for an informative session. Please, next slide. So let me take the opportunity to set the agenda for today. As I stated previously, for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to provide an overview specific to how iPass is involved with in-flight connectivity. The next step in the process will be an update from Gogo, and then we'll finalize that with a broad look at in-flight on a global basis. During the presentation, everyone on the telephone will have an opportunity to ask questions. You should see a chat box on your screen as part of the webinar. We encourage you to ask questions, as the last 30 minutes of the session will be specific to the questions asked by the attendees. Just make sure to do us a favor. When asking the question, please include your name and company, and then we will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So let me set the agenda for today and start off with introductions. First of all, my name is Jeff Mabe, and I am Director of Strategic Partnerships for iPass, based out here in San Diego, California. Joining me soon will be Kathee Muldermans, who is Director of Sales and Channel Partnerships for Gogo. As we stated, we will go into a bit of an overview of the state of in-flight Wi-Fi. We'll cover off, Kathee will cover off everything that Gogo is doing both today and in the future, and then we'll finalize things with a broader look at in-flight specific to a global reach, which given that this particular webinar is specific to our partners and customers in Europe, which we will believe will be of great interest to you for kind of future products and offerings. Next slide, please. So the first thing I want to do very quickly is stating how iPass fits in to Wi-Fi in general, and more specifically in in-flight Wi-Fi. For those of you who know iPass, this will be a bit of a refresher. For those of you that are new to iPass, hopefully you'll learn something new. iPass is a leading provider of global mobile connectivity. We offer unlimited, everywhere invisible connectivity powered by the world's largest Wi-Fi network. It's currently today we have over 60 million hotspots that our customers have access to in more than 120 countries. We have 160 network partners, because the thing that's interesting about iPass is we don't actually own or operate any of our own network. We work with our Wi-Fi partners to provide that access. Currently, we have about 5 million devices that are enabled with our solution, providing access for Wi-Fi connectivity, inclusive of in-flight. And as part of the in-flight offering, we have access for our customers at over 3,000 commercial aircraft on a global basis. Okay, next slide, please. So we're all here today because I think we are in all agreement that we want one thing, and that's to be connected. As probably a lot of folks on the phone today manage a mobile team, or even have a team of business travelers, those individuals need to be connected to be productive. In fact, 97% say that anytime, anywhere access to data and applications makes employees more effective, especially where they are in in-flight. As a result, more and more airlines are offering in-flight access. If you go back to 2006, that's when airlines and companies like Gogo began offering in-flight services. It was 2 years later, in 2008, that Gogo made its debut on commercial aircraft. Now, fast forward to 2016, 2017, in-flight Wi-Fi is now considered absolutely indispensable. In fact, 75% of business travelers state that Wi-Fi is vital to their productivity. And more so, global travelers are bringing on at least one Wi-Fi enabled device on board on every flight. So as in-flight becomes more prevalent, our behaviors have also changed from a travel perspective. I don't know about the most of you, but I travel quite a bit myself. And the one thing that I don't want to do is spend an awful lot of time in airports. I want to get to the airport, I want to get through security, I want to get to my gate, and I want to get on the aircraft. What that means is that my behavior from Wi-Fi connectivity has changed in the sense that I don't necessarily look to stay connected while I'm sitting in the boarding gate of my flight, because I know that I have the ability to connect in flight, and the luxury of using that in flight is much more conducive to my productivity than sitting in the gate area. So I think that with how the airlines have been committed, and companies such as Gogo are committed to making in-flight more and more accessible, the question is, wouldn't I want a quick, easy, and seamless way to be connected via in-flight versus sitting in airports? Okay, next slide, please. So I briefly touched on the history of in-flight Wi-Fi, but let's look at some of the specifics around the state of Wi-Fi today. Next slide, please. Some fun facts here. If you didn't already know, in-flight Wi-Fi has really crossed the line and has become expected by travelers. We're seeing that reflected in research that we do from an iPass perspective, and a number of folks like Emersat, and even some information that Kathee will share from the Gogo perspective, which echo the point that in-flight is the most important in-flight amenity. And as you can see from this slide, you know, Wi-Fi is more than half of those surveyed that says, yeah, give me that more than meals, give me more than that than entertainment, duty-free magazines, etc. Airline passengers today on a global basis have nearly a 40% chance of stepping aboard an aircraft and having Wi-Fi equipped when they board. Now, specifically, that statistic takes into account the development of in-flight Wi-Fi in the U.S. and the rest of the world, which I'll touch on in the next slide. Although that 40% number might be lower than expected, year over year, that's about an 8% increase from 2016, which certainly shows a positive trend line. Next slide, please. The one thing that needs to be clear for the folks on the phone from Europe is, from a Europe standpoint, Wi-Fi connectivity is somewhat lagging behind from what the carriers are offering in the U.S. Regionally, the U.S. is the undisputed leader in in-flight Wi-Fi. There are more connected aircraft operating in the U.S. compared to other regions, and more U.S. airlines have Wi-Fi enabled aircraft. Right now, you can expect that most, if not all, flights provided by U.S. airlines flying within the U.S. will have in-flight connectivity. As stated, other regions have traditionally lagged behind, but the good news is our European carriers, BA, Air France, KLM, etc., are quickly catching up. Traditionally, the lag is because of difficulty in installing transmission towers in different countries. But global airlines, as stated, are quickly ratcheting up. One, because there's an understanding that customers such as yourself and those that work in your organizations want to be connected, want to have connectivity, and in-flight is kind of the last bastion for access to Wi-Fi. A note for those of you in the EMEA area, business travel is increasing, as we all know, and while, as stated, the U.S. is certainly leading in terms of the number of in-flight, you're looking at a rapid expansion from those carriers flying into in Europe, etc., as well as flying from Europe into the U.S. We'll be having more and more Wi-Fi connectivity. Next slide, please. Along those lines, talking about those carriers that are committed to Wi-Fi, here's a slide that talks about kind of the global distribution of the top 10 airline providers. And these are measured by available seat miles. So you have a smattering of U.S. heavyweights, Delta, United, American, Southwest Airlines. But what you also have is international carriers, Lufthansa, in the Middle East with Emirates and Etihad, and in Southeast Asia with Singapore. These carriers have made a commitment, certainly over the last year or so, and adding more Wi-Fi connectivity, which is, again, the positive trend line that I spoke about on the previous slides. Okay? Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to Kathee Muldermans from Gogo. Just to set the tone a bit, Gogo is the global leader at providing broadband connectivity solutions and wireless in-flight entertainment to the aviation industry. iPass and Gogo have actually enjoyed a really long and prosperous partnership that began in early 2012. Our partnership has grown each and every year since, and now the Gogo partnership, from a strategic standpoint, is one of the most important partnerships that we have here at iPass. So Kathee, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Jeff, for the opportunity to join you today. As a matter of fact, this morning, Gogo came out with a press release that we are now installed on more than 3,000 commercial aircraft and available on over 12,000 flights a day. Our current airline partners are American, Air Canada, Alaska, Delta, Japan Airlines, United Airlines, and Virgin America. As Jeff had mentioned, we're primarily flying over the North American market, but we are rapidly looking at expansion globally as well, which would be of much interest to the EMEA group. Gogo has approximately 50% of the global market share, and what we've seen is the demand for in-flight connectivity continue to soar. Based on a recent survey conducted by Gogo, more than half of global travelers factor in Wi-Fi in their choice of airlines when choosing a flight. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, 90% or more of global passengers bring at least one Wi-Fi enabled device on board with them. Next slide, please. Today, there's actually 3 different ways to provide in-flight connectivity using different frequency bands and technologies. The first that we're going to talk about is our air-to-ground technology, which is what we launched with back in 2008 with American Airlines, our first airline partner. We basically took a cell tower and turned it upside down so that the antenna on the top of the tower was pointed to the sky, providing approximately a 250-mile radius for connectivity. Now, the existing Gogo ATG, as we call air-to-ground network, has over 250 cellular towers covering the continental U.S. and expanding for the commercial flight routes between Alaska and Canada as well. Now, how the air-to-ground technology works is that the antenna on the belly of the aircraft sends and receives signals from the cell towers. And on board the plane, there's a central processing unit that kind of coordinates the messaging. And then there's wireless access points inside the cabin that distribute the signal to the interior to the traveler's Wi-Fi enabled devices. If you've ever been at home and had a call drop on your cell phone, you can imagine how difficult it is if you're on board a plane and the transfer of signals has to occur when an airplane is traveling 400 miles an hour. Pretty incredible. Now, currently, the peak speed for the full airplane on our air-to-ground ATG-4 aircraft with approximately 150 passengers on board is 9.8 megabits per second. Now, in comparison, the average home internet network has approximate speeds of between 15 and 25 megabits per second. So you can see there's not that much bandwidth to distribute across an entire airplane, and that's why our current ATG services are limited to email and basic internet surfing, and streaming video is not allowed. But the good news is that Gogo is planning to launch a next-gen ATG network in 2018 that will provide significant improvements in the speed. Tom, you can move to the next slide, please. This slide is pretty cool because it gives you a bird's-eye view of what our network operation or NOC center engineers look at and monitor every day across the U.S. cellular tower network. All the green aircraft represent active airplanes that are Gogo equipped that are sending and receiving signals as they're flying. And what they're monitoring for is any of the aircraft that you see in red, because there they can identify there's an issue in the signaling, whether it's in the aircraft itself or between the aircraft and cell towers. And the engineers work 24/7 to solve problems in real time. And if they can't do it while the plane is actually flying, upon its destination, there'll be maintenance there to do the required upkeep to get that aircraft up and running for the next flight. Next slide, please, Tom. The second type of technology for in-flight internet is the KU and KA satellite systems, which these allow connectivity over water and remote locations. Now, the difference between the two is that KA is a newer satellite. And if you're traveling on an international flight with Gogo service today, you've probably used our KA or KU band satellite connectivity service. Next, please. Now, our latest technology is 2KU, and with this, the speeds are high enough to make streaming services possible to our customers on commercial aircraft. This is really exciting for us. The technology offers a 2KU flat panel antenna with up to 2 times more spectrally efficiency, and with the smaller antenna, reduced drag, saving on fuel costs, providing peak speeds of 70 megabits or more to the aircraft. Now, on a home network, if you have 3 or 4 things going on, say 2 people are gaming on separate systems and one's streaming a movie, you will get some lags. But these problems will pretty much go away if the Wi-Fi speeds are above 50 megabits per second. So with this new technology, it's going to be streaming fast. Now, more than 130 aircraft are currently installed with Gogo's 2KU solution. 12 airlines have signed up for the service, representing more than 1,500 aircraft, and the majority will be expected to be installed sometime by the end of 2018. For the EMEA market, we're working with Air France KLM, Virgin Atlantic, and British Airways and Iberia International Aircraft for installations in the near future. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share some results on a Gogo-provided survey that we did with a customer base of ours called our Connected Class Panel. This panel of individuals is a great representation of our customer demographics and behaviors, and they're mostly made up of business travelers. Next slide. This is going to highlight key insights from the survey that indicate that almost all business travelers who use Gogo truly believe that it makes them more productive when flying, and over half believe it helps improve them with their work-life balance. Now, business travelers who use Gogo also find it essential that they have internet access when flying for business. But the travelers are also, they have very high expectations in terms of their employers allowing them to expense their in-flight internet purchases to keep them productive while they're flying. Next slide, please, Tom. This slide just gives you a graphic view that most of the Gogo customers who use in-flight internet for work, and the majority of them can expense it. And this was based on the survey that we conducted with the panel. Next slide, please. From this slide, it shows that customers surveyed feel that in-flight internet makes them more productive, and it helps keep them connected, restoring their work-life balance. Jeff and I travel quite a bit for work, and we know that this has been a game changer for us in our lives, as we know that if we can get on a connected aircraft and get some of our work done before headed home, we can spend more time with our families and friends during the evening and on the weekends. Next slide, please. And to show that, this slide shows that those who use in-flight internet for work agree that it helps them to get things done and saves time. It's really great that when you get back on a Friday night that you don't have to worry about catching up on emails or last-minute deadlines over the weekend if you can take care of it in flight on the trip home. Next slide, please. This last slide that we have shows that access to in-flight internet has allowed customers to respond to client requests immediately and to meet deadlines. Gogo's got many testimonials from travelers thanking us for allowing them to close deals while in flight and handle business deadlines that would normally have to wait until they landed. Gogo helps keep your travelers connected to family, friends, and colleagues at 30,000 feet and helps your business travelers maintain a work-life balance and stay productive in flight. With that, I'm going to hand back the controls to Jeff.
Kathee, we seem to have lost Jeff.
Ah, okay.
Oh, I'm here. I'm sorry, guys. My apologies. I was talking to myself because I was on mute, so I was having a great conversation with myself. My apologies. So we've spoken about iPass and our commitment to all things Wi-Fi. Kathee walked us through about how Gogo has become the leader in in-flight Wi-Fi and really learn more about what Gogo is looking to do to keep that leadership position now and in the future. Just a couple of final data points here. We're showing survey results that almost 100% of air travelers expect, don't need, don't require, they expect to have in-flight Wi-Fi connectivity. And really that demand is starting to color the way that businesses, people choose airlines and choose airline partners. Almost 85% of those people surveyed actually chose airlines and their partner airlines based on the availability of in-flight Wi-Fi. For business travel managers, the fact that nearly 70% of the people will actually pay for Wi-Fi, where in-flight Wi-Fi tends to be most expensive, is an interesting fact. Now, what we at iPass have believed in terms of the way that we connect is we're trying to remove friction from the connection process, right? But I think what's eye-opening about the fact that people will tend to pay for Wi-Fi seems to, in-flight Wi-Fi, seems to, there's a difference between how most people want to connect to Wi-Fi in general. Today, in today's environment, whether you're in a hotel or what have you, what people are looking for is Wi-Fi access is at speeds like they have at home or in the office, and they want it for free, most importantly. In-flight is very different. You know, people will and do pay for in-flight Wi-Fi, even though in-flight Wi-Fi today is a bit more than expensive than the norm. The reason is simple. They see the value in the offering, and they'll pay for that privilege. So we're very committed to Wi-Fi going forward. Next slide, please. As I had mentioned at the onset of the discussion, from an iPass perspective, we are very committed to Wi-Fi connectivity in general and specifically around in-flight Wi-Fi. As Kathee had mentioned with Gogo, there's about 2,900 aircraft that are available, actually over 3,000 now as of today's announcement, availability for Gogo. From an iPass perspective, we also have a couple of other partnerships in in-flight that gives us and our partners and our customers access to not only the Gogo flights, as you've seen here, but you can add other carriers such as Lufthansa, KLM, China Airlines, etc. From a North American perspective, 2,900 commercial aircraft equipped with Gogo. From an international in-flight today, via another partnership, we have 300 plus airplanes, but there's another 23 airlines that are in line to be integrated into our service. And then finally, back in November of last year, iPass signed a direct deal with United Airlines with the full fleet being added to our in-flight offering will happen sometime in third quarter of this year. So we are committed, along with our partner at Gogo, to continue to provide in-flight access, and we hope that at least today that you've gotten some new information. And at this point in time, I'll open it up to questions. Tom, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, so we've had one question come in here that's about the user journey. So the question is, at a high level, can you articulate how people can get connected on board Gogo?
Yeah, I'll do that from an iPass perspective without going into much detail. For those of you that are familiar with connecting to Wi-Fi, it is somewhat of a cumbersome process in terms of finding Wi-Fi that's available, connecting to the Wi-Fi. If it's a free service, there's always a security issue in terms of connecting to a Wi-Fi that's open for, potential hacking. From an in-flight perspective, there is, if you're not an iPass partner, you get on the airplane, you wait till the internet is available at 10,000 feet, and you open up your browser. It connects you to a page. You put your username and password, or you put a credit card in to pay for the access. So it's a bit of a cumbersome process. From an iPass perspective, with our customers, and I'm going to speak specifically to Inflight, the process is very simple. One is when Inflight Wi-Fi becomes available at 10,000 feet, above 10,000 feet, our solution, which resides on various devices, will automatically connect to the Inflight Wi-Fi. The only manual involvement that a user has at that time will be to input CAPTCHA. And for those of you who don't know what CAPTCHA is those letters that you have to type in to prove that you are who you are and you're not a robot. It's more for security, from a security perspective. Once CAPTCHA has been input, the user is connected. There is no credit card. There is no remembering a username and password. We are very committed to making the journey very, very seamless and secure at the same time. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. We've also had a couple of questions come in from Stefan at Orange. The first one being, will voice and video services be available on the 2Ku band?
Video services, yes. Voice, TBD. It's not technology, from a technological perspective, voice is available in the sense that it can work, but it's been more of a social issue as it relates to the airlines making that decision on whether they want to have voice available to their passenger base. But definitely video will be available with 2Ku.
Okay, thank you. And the other question was, will in-flight Wi-Fi become free of charge for in-flight entertainment when replacing the in-seat TV screens?
That is probably a question you need to ask your airline partner.
Yeah, what is happening is, especially here in the U.S., is you do have carriers that are starting to offer in-flight entertainment separate from the in-flight Wi-Fi connectivity. What is sometimes recognized and sometimes not is that in-flight connectivity is actually usually sponsored by, for example, I was just on a Southwest Airlines flight. I think it's a good example. And the service that Southwest has provided is actually sponsored by Beats, the headset manufacturer that Apple now owns. So what carriers are doing is yes, they are offering some of the in-flight access, entertainment access, but it's free to user. But as long as the airlines are seeing a return on the investment, and actually the investment is being covered by another entity, I think you're going to continue to see the in-flight, the entertainment place be offered. But from a Wi-Fi perspective, I think that will still be a paid-for service. But I think to Kathee's point, it's very much on an airline-by-airline basis.
Okay, thank you. Stefan's also asked, for EMEA footprint, how will I know in advance if I booked a flight with Wi-Fi?
Stefan, that's a great question. And I don't exactly have the best answer at this point. From an iPass perspective, for those customers that are part of our partnership, we will be communicating when airlines are adding service from an in-flight perspective. The issue is, and I'll use United Airlines as an example. United Airlines has roughly 735 aircraft globally. We will finish our integration with them sometime in an April timeframe. Now, what will happen is once we have integrated the service, then United will begin to roll out the service to the individual aircraft. that is not a flip the switch that, you know, one day it's there, it's not there, and the next day it is there, because there's software upgrades, and airlines are very particular about pulling aircraft out of service, because obviously that's where they make their money, right? So what we've been working with on United is how to have communication with United as they begin to roll out aircraft, right? The issue is that if you're on for example, an A330, I'll use Aer Lingus now, moving from United to, you know, a more European-centric carrier. I'll look at an Aer Lingus flight that is going between San Francisco and Dublin. One flight, it could be, you know, on a Monday, that flight could be an A330-200 series where Wi-Fi is included because Aer Lingus has rolled out that service. The next day, because that same aircraft doesn't only fly between two different city pairs, that next day that aircraft could be an A330-300 series where they have not rolled out. So we're really relying on our carrier partners to be more aggressive when they have the ability to do so, to educate us so we can educate you, our partners, on when flights have Wi-Fi connectivity. The simple question or simple answer is, going back to United, when we roll out the service at all 735, you will know that every time you get on a United aircraft, Wi-Fi will be included.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And then we've had a final question come in from Robert Birkland to ask, will you be adding a simple app for accessing Gogo on flights?
Thanks, Robert, for the question. Well, so from an iPass perspective, we have the solution today that allows for the user journey that I gave a very, very high level of overview just previous on the first question that was asked. That is a result of iPass having a solution that resides on devices, and our solution supports iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac, which pretty much covers all the different operating systems out there today from a handset or laptop configuration. So the user journey, the seamless connectivity that I highlighted, is available today for iPass customers that would be inclusive of Gogo access. So that exists today. Robert, did I answer your question, hopefully?
Let's hope so. Yes, you have.
Okay, great.
And that's all the questions we've had come in. So unless anybody else has got anything else they want to just send across in the questions box, and I think we're good. Well,
guys, thank you very much for the time. Kathee, thanks for your information today. We'll give you back 26 minutes of your day. In the document that has been shared, there is some information on how to get in contact with us. Please feel free to reach out. And again, we appreciate the time today. Thank you.